I did not expect this to be a Pokemon channel. Despite everything. No, I did not expect and I do not intend for this channel to be Pokemon only. However, clearly you guys like that. And you like it so much, in fact, that we've hit a huge milestone. As you may have known from last week's video, editor, show a clip. And while that video was primarily silly and about people coming to the premiere and having the whole like 2-minute wait for the little bit that, God, I was so happy with that bit. Mark my words, when and if I ever get to numbers that are significantly bigger than this, I will be doing that bit again at some point when I have a much bigger audience to catch them with. Catch them, you say? Gotta catch them all, that's right. Pokemon. References. Comedy? Who's to say? Anyway, the point is, that last video was silly, but it was about something that genuinely makes me very proud and grateful. We hit 100,000 lifetime channel views, and that is a stupidly big number. Not quite an unfathomable number, but that's damn big. That's something to be proud of. And so I'm gonna be proud for a little bit, but I am also a benign and generous god. Benign? Benevolent. Yeah, benevolent. I'm not a fucking tumor. You stay out of this. And so, my point is, I have something to give back to all of you. Pokemon's been around for, as previously mentioned, almost 30 years, good fucking lord. And since it has begun, people have developed their own ways to play the game. Kaizo, Ironmon, the Ducklock.
The duck gods smile on this honorary duck.
But none are as famous and as popular as the Nuzlocke. The big OG, the original, I want Pokemon to be challenging challenge. But there are lots and lots of different variations on the original format, and god damn it, I want one. I want to have one. So without further ado, here are the rules to a Woblock, or perhaps a Wobble-Lock. I haven't decided yet. Leave a comment on what you like better. So, Woblock, here we go. We're gonna start off nice and simple with the rules to a regular Nuzlocke. You can only catch one thing per route, has to be the first thing you find. Easy. If a thing faints, it's dead. Easy. No getting it back. And furthermore, no keeping it in a box of death. Release that shit. It's dead. Get rid of it. It's supposed to hurt. The whole reason for rule number 3, you have to name them to get attached, is because it hurts. You have to release them. That's my hot Nuzlocke take that makes me irrationally angry. If you're doing something different with it, like I know my good buddy Scarecrow Sketch, who will come up later in this video, often does Sleep Lock, Soul Link type of thing, and has like a bit redemption, because it's streamed on Twitch over at Scarecrow Sketch on Twitch, link in the description. There's often a bit redeemed to revive a dead pair. That's different. If there's something about it, or a way that they could like come back, that's different. But if you're just doing a Nuzlocke, you gotta release that shit. That's the entire point. And of course, if you are interested, you can always make it hardcore with a variety of hardcore add-ons. No healing in battle, I've seen level caps, of course, for the next boss fight, typically a gym battle. That's usually the stuff for hardcore. Set mode. All of that is still well within the bounds, perfectly applicable. We're going to be adding rules on, tacking on additional rules, not fucking with the originals.
And I said no, you know, like a liar.
So, here's the first thing. I'm gonna immediately go back on that. You're all familiar with Dupe's Claws, but we have to remember that Pokemon are really just animals, and really just pets, usually. Unless you do something like this. Why would they sell this? This was the most degenerate thing Pokemon's ever done. Why would they sell a life-sized Gardevoir plush? They did Lucario, and Lucario was just a wholesome friend. He was just sitting drinking coffee and listening to your problems. And then they did this, and it's just tucked away in the corner. Shame. Shame in the corner, waiting for the next time you care to get it out. Like a... Anyway, other than that horrible shit, Pokemon are pets. At least they're meant to be. And pets are often left in the home when you go to work or to business or to travel, and therefore, pets need buddies. Pets need little buddies. So from now on, Dupe's Claws out of here. Gone. We're rocking the Trips Claws. Because every Pokemon, or every pet deserves a friend. You get yourself a little Rattata on Route 1, you find a second Rattata, you gotta catch that second Rattata. That's your second Rattata. Now you have little rat buddies. They're best friends. You don't need a third one, though. 3's too much. 3's too much for any pet. Except for, like, fish, but I didn't want to make a whole extra rule for that. So, pets need friends. Trips Claws. And here is the introduction of how this is going to work. Each of my rules also has a regular mode and a hardcore mode. Maybe not each, but most. So for Trips Claws, the difference is if you run into a third Rattata, you must skip that encounter. You're not allowed a third Rattata in hard mode. You're allowed a third. Dupes Claws is an option. It's an optional rule. You don't have to not catch something in a standard Nuzlocke. But here, you're playing hard mode, you see a third rat, that's out of there. No third rats for you, even if that ruins your encounter because you have everything that spawns in X location. Too bad. You should have caught better in the past. No third rats for you. No mouse bites. Your patient's gonna die.
This vexes me.
Rule number 2. This is a personal rule, but it's my personal Nuzlocke rule, so you'll have to get with it. No fairy types. Period. And if you're playing in Generation 5 or before, 5 or before, no Pokemon that are going to become fairy types. No Clefairies, certainly none of this thing. And the hard mode version of this is if you run into a fairy type for your encounter, that's your encounter. You still can't catch it, but that was your encounter, and now it's over. No fairies for you. No fairies here. Terrible type. Don't put it on your team. The one exception is Cutiefly, of course. As we all know, the only good fairy type. Obviously, this goes without saying, no, you can't evolve it. Speaking of evolution, the next rule that I have for you is based off our little friend here, my poor little microphone that I just swing around all over the dang place. He deserves a little bit of recompense. So I present for you the Creamtown Conundrum. Now, the Creamtown Conundrum states that Pokemon, it's a partnership. It's you and a team working together to be better. And all good partnerships come with communication. And therefore, you must communicate in some way with each of your Pokemon about whether or not they want to evolve. Not whether or not they can. Any Pokemon can evolve. You can throw a Thunderstone at this little dog and make sure it's never going to be as horrible as it could be. But that's not what we're here to do. No, this is teamwork. This is between friends. If you want to evolve, you may. What does that mean? Well, that's up for you to decide. This could take any number of forms. You could flip a coin. Heads they evolve, tails they don't. You could just ask them. You could go, hey Creamtown, do you want to evolve?
No! God, please, no!
And then know in your heart what the answer is for that particular Pokemon. Creamtown does not want to evolve. If you're streaming your run, you could let chat decide. Maybe they're more in tune with your Pokemon than you are, you ask them. I don't know. That's up to you. Once they've made their decision, you can check in every so often with them, but it's not every level. If you badger them for a different response every level, you're not going to get a genuine... We're bordering on abuse here, and that's not okay. Pokemon abuse, not okay. So you can't badger your Pokemon for a different thing, but you can check in with them every so often, because Popper's Penguins, people and Pokemon alike are allowed to change their minds. Maybe they just weren't ready for it at level 18, and they needed to come into their early 30s to be ready. And that's okay. This one does not have a hard mode rule, because communication with your partners is more important than any challenge. So, communication is hard already. We don't need to make that any harder. And if you're curious what any of that had to do with Creamtown specifically and why it's named for him, you should go check out this video. The next rule I like to call generational embargo. Now what does this mean? Starting at the beginning of the game, you can roll for one generation out of the possible 9. Or if you're playing in Platinum, the possible 4. Or if you're playing in Kalos, why are you playing in Kalos? But the possible 6. You see the pattern here. And whatever number you roll for, you are not allowed to catch, use any Pokemon from that generation. You roll a 3 in Paldea, no Hoenn boys for you. This does, however, mean that if you were to go into an encounter and find someone that is contraband, you get to re-roll, lose entirely, that encounter. If you are not allowed Gen 2 and a Chikorita comes across your merry way, you get to go looking for something else. You get to not catch anything there. This place is tainted with Chikorita. They're like a plague, a virus. We must away from here. But as with most politics and natural ecosystemal ways of things, things change. So, after every gym battle, you get to either move to the next number sequentially, or re-roll which generation is currently embargoed. Now, this is a good thing and a bad thing. If you started the game in Paldea, and you started with a 9, that's gonna suck. But once you beat the first gym, well, then you can get off of that. You can start using Paldean Pokemon. The doubled edge of this sword, however, is if, in your quest to get away from Paldea, you had a shit ton of Hoenn things, and then you roll a 3, well, oopsie doodle, all those guys are going in the box until you beat the next gym leader. This will help promote a mixing of teams, so that you get to use a whole bunch of different guys. Now, this does mean that the lower number you go in Generation, the more and more difficult this is going to be, making Generation 1 fully impossible. But honestly, Kanto has had enough time in the sun. Kanto can go sit on the benches for this one. I don't care that Kanto isn't allowed to play. No red, no green, no leaf green. Leaves do not change the green, just as fire does not change the red. Get out of here. Let's go over there and take a little breather. Give someone else a turn, alright? The next rule, I have to come clean and admit I am lifting directly from Pokemon Infinite Fusions. For any gym battle, significant encounter. What do I mean by significant encounter? This could be a team fight battling Cyrus in Platinum. One of the Titans in Paldea. Who are the guys in Alola that aren't gym leaders? Those guys. The Trials. Any of the stuff like that. You have to match the amount of Pokemon that they're bringing to the party. So, you're going up against Brock. He's got a Geodude and an Onix. You get 2 Pokemon. Doesn't matter that you caught 6. We're playing fair here. Calling this rule fair fight, because it's you got to do a fair fight. Next up is a bit of a silly rule, and one that's going to contradict the next rule. I call this rule the lads. As you should know if you've been here for a long time, or as you're about to get to learn, if this is your first video on this channel, I have 4 pets in real life. Dip, Slippers, Peach, and Dink. These names must be used as soon as you find something that fits the role. Your first female bird, as long as it's a loose approximation, like Pidgey, of course, P-Dove, of course, Skarmory, yes, Sigilif, no. Use your own personal judgment. Specifically with the female gender, must be named Peej, P-E-E-J. Male bird must be named Slippers. Your first male lizard must be some variation of Diphthong, typically Dip or Dippy. And of course, your first female cat must be Dink. I don't make the rules. Yes, I do. Those are the rules. Deal with it. As for every other Pokemon you catch, well, because this all spawned from my boy Creamtown here, all Pokemon names must be a combination of 2 nouns. This could be anything that suits your fancy. Alligator chauffeur, wombat salad. I don't know. I'm not gonna tell you what to name your Pokemon. That's for you to figure out. Leave a comment. What Pokemon is wombat salad? Who is that? Who's that Pokemon?
Who's that Pokémon? It's
Wombat salad. Next up, we have another personal rule for me, one that's coming out of how I like to play the game. I love a goober when I'm playing Pokemon. I love a little guy. I love a little creature, a little thing, a little dude, as you would. What's a goober? I'm thrilled that you asked. Dwebble is a goober, for sure. Dwebble's a goober. Sewaddle, another classic goober. I would argue that maybe Clink is a goober, just barely. He gets right by on the line. I'd say Klefki, but again, fairy type, so he's not allowed. Sorry, Klefki. But my point in this: search your feelings, feel it in your heart. You'll know. You'll know what is and isn't a goober. I don't need to make a full list. You'll know. You'll feel it. Once you have successfully procured a goober of any kind, once you have procured a goober of any sort, as deemed by your heart of hearts, you must, at all times, have at least 1 goober on the team. Because if you are in possession of goobers and not using your goobers, you don't deserve to continue playing the game. So, once you have a goober of some kind, they must get 1 of the 6 slots on your team. Now, if you get 2 goobers, you are welcome to mix and match, switch between the 2. You do not have to have a full team of 6 goobers. That's too much goobage, even for me. But if I get my hands on a Dwebble, and also a Swaddle, one of those bad boys has got to be in the party. The only way to get around this is through death. If your last goober dies, you don't have any goobers anymore, so you can't use the goober rule. You are not allowed to trade them away. You are not allowed to change them out and put them in the box for something else, obviously. And here's your hard mode for this one. You're not allowed to evolve your last goober, even if they want to. It's more important that you have a goober there. If you have a goober that wants to evolve, well, you gotta go find a second goober. That's just how the cookie crumbles. You get your hands on a Dwebble that just really wants to become a Crustle, and you find yourself a Stuffle, you can have yourself a Crustle now. You've got a new goober. And that is the Goober Ultimatum. Now, one more thing that I often see in a Nuzlocke is the Shiny Claws. And now I've got a bone to pick with you, the Shiny Claws. I understand the caveman impulse of, oh, thing different, get thing different. And I understand the instinct of, wow, this is pretty rare. I'm gonna make an exception to the way I'm playing to get this thing. That's not how we do things here. That's not the way of honor. We're playing by a rule system. We're gonna stick with it. There's no preferential treatment for shinies. Shiny Claws doesn't exist. In fact, I'm sick and tired of the preferential treatment that shinies have been getting. And so, if at any point you run into a shiny Pokemon, and if it's in Scarlet and Violet, it's if you just see one out in the wild. You know who you are. Not only may you not catch it out of turn, for even considering that you might catch it out of turn, you will have to forfeit your next encounter. You're not allowed to catch the next thing. And if you're playing on hard mode, you must kill someone currently on the team. Doesn't matter who it is. This might be the way to get out of the Goober Ultimatum. You spot a shiny, them's the breaks. Someone's gotta go. However, in the ultimate reversal of fate, if you manage to get a shiny Pokemon as your regular encounter, well, that's a different story. For doing something that lucky, for pulling off something of that caliber, well, for that you have earned yourself 1 max revive. Now, we are not in the habit of Pokemon-based necromancy. Revives are not to be used on Pokemon that have been dead for a long time. But we are in the business of emergency medical care. So, if a Pokemon happens to die, things happen, mistakes happen, accidents happen, that's okay. If a Pokemon happens to die during a battle, and you successfully use your max revive on that Pokemon during the same battle, well, then you just performed life-saving CPR, and that Pokemon lived. They survived. They made it through. It was looking rough for a second, but you got medical attention to them fast enough. They're all right. But once the battle ends, their heart stopped, their brain stopped. That's not something you can safely revive, and we're not in the business of necromancy, so, them's the breaks. And finally, of course, as much as I like to wave Creamtown around, he is not the best Pokemon. I'm sorry, Creamtown. You're very special to me. But you are not the best category of Pokemon. You are the best Vanillite. Vanillite is not the best Pokemon. Even though you are the best Creamtown that's ever been. Creamtown, no! Creamtown's taken a brief vacation, leave of absence. I hear he's gone to the Bahamas. Editor, show a clip. He's fine. He'll be fine. He's all right. He'll be fine. Anyway, the best Pokemon that there is of course Bulbasaur, my boy, my lad. So this rule, the final rule for the final lad, is called Absolute Supremacy. If you ever encounter a wild Bulbasaur, you are obligated to catch it, unless you already have your own Bulbasaur. There's not room in any man's heart, in any woman, in any they's heart, for multiple Bulbasaurs. That's just too much. You'd burst. You are obligated by law to catch the first Bulbasaur you encounter, regardless if it fits into the normal encounter structure. However, should you come across an enemy Bulbasaur in the wild, one that is already loved and cared for, well, it would be absolutely monstrous to destroy that thing. So you are categorically not allowed to use super effective or neutral moves against a Bulbasaur. And if you don't have a way out of that, well, ends the breaks. Bulbasaur stays on top. And if you were to break these rules, either on purpose for being a charlatan or by accident, because accidents happen, well, that's okay. You'll just have to make a sacrifice in blood to Bulbasaur. Yes, for every time you break one of these rules, you must kill someone, as is the standard. And that, ladies and gentlemen, will about do it You've got the rules, you've got the tools, you've got the task. Now let's see if you're up for it. I mentioned him earlier in this video. One Scarecrow sketch. I formally challenge you to complete a Woblock in a game of your choice. And I showed their video earlier. One Hades on Holiday. Also a friend of mine. Look at all these names I've just dropped. Hell, I'll throw Danny Mata in there too. Little known fact, we did a Nuzlocke together very briefly over on Twitch. I think the VODs of that are dead. They might be on his Patreon, but I don't know if he started doing that yet. But he did Pokemon briefly. So, names. Dropping them. All over the place. Fuck it. Jargon TV, you're in there too. Everyone currently watching this video, that's right. I challenge you. I challenge all of you to complete a Woblock in any game of your choice. That isn't Kanto. As previously mentioned, that's not possible. The lower the number, the more impressive it'll be. The idea is for this to happen on a randomized game, but I suppose that is not a requirement. And if you do manage to make this happen, hopefully the previously mentioned content creators will stream it in some way or record it for something. And if you are just doing it at home, well, hey, why don't you come check out the Discord? The Discord, it's right here. We do fun things all the time. We just did a movie night. We did a little Hoodwinked. We all decided we wanted to keep going. We did a little Hoodwinked too. I think the next one's gonna be Speed Racer. You know what? It'll happen after this video. If this video has gone live, then this same Friday, movie night. In the Discord, Speed Racer. We're making it happen. Come tell me how you're doing on the Woblock. Keep me updated. I'm very interested to see if anyone can pull this off or if I've made this way too hard. I honestly don't think I have. This has nothing on Ironmon. If you want a little extra bonus, all the things that got cut out of this video, all of the Danny Mata Gravity Falls watch parties we've been doing over in the Discord, bloopers, extended cuts, me live tweeting my own pain. I don't even want to say it, but hopefully my Immortal is up by now. That is over on the Patreon. And you too could be a patron, just like these wonderful people. That's right, the list is longer now. It's not just Malayik and one other person, which makes me very happy because it means more people get to enjoy all of the lovely bonus content. Year in review going up on there too. Not quite yet, because the year hasn't ended. For those that don't know, the year for me ends on March 11th, I think it is. So somewhere around there we'll have year in review up. That'll be exciting. Here's the first one of that. But yeah, come hang out. Come join us for free in the Discord and for paid on the Patreon. And be sure to check out everyone that I mentioned in this video. All of their links are in the description as well. They're all different flavors of wonderful, lovely people. And I will see you for whatever the next video is. Mischief. I'm in my mischief time. It's time for mischief. That was a terrible post-credit scene.